Hello and welcome. I'm Mariana Trapnell, President and Chief Excel Geek here at Accelerations. In today's video, we're going to circle back to something we discussed briefly about macros, but which is really important to understand. So as I mentioned previously, the beauty of macros is that they perform exactly the same steps every time you run them. That's how they allow us to automate some of our processes and make our lives easier. However, the qualifier to that is that they perform exactly the same steps that you recorded, which can be good or bad. So what do I mean by that? Let's take a look, shall we? So, if you recall from the previous videos, when we want to record a macro, we can quickly do so by clicking the record button at the bottom of our screen, right down here. If you don't see that, check out video 1 in this series, which will show you how to display it. Next, we record whatever steps we want the macro to perform. So let's hit record, and go yellow, bold, and I'm going to save it in my personal workbook. Okay. Now, we record the steps we want it to perform, so we need it to be yellow and bold here. Yellow and bold. And then I'm going to hit stop right away so it doesn't record anything else. So then, as it says here, we're going to add our macro to the quick access toolbar so that we can reduce the click count and just have one button to click when we want to use our macro in the future. To do that, we go to our quick access toolbar, use the little drop down, and scroll all the way to the bottom to get more commands. Inside here, we're going to choose commands from our macros list. And in this case, we've just got the one macro in our personal workbook called yellow bold. So let's use the add button to move it over. And then I'm going to modify it to make it easier to find in the future. So I'm going to do a little yellow happy face. And I'm just going to change the name a little bit so that it's nice and short and easy to read. So we'll call it yellow and bold. And hit OK. So that looks good, and then we're going to hit OK in here. Next, of course, we need to run our macro to test that it's going to work as we expect. So let's highlight this next header and see how it looks when we run the macro. So I hit my button again here, yellow bold. Well, it didn't do anything here. What happened? Why didn't it highlight the text we selected? Let's try something else, shall we? Let's remove the formatting from this cell and try it again. So the quickest way to remove the formatting is actually to use the Format Painter on the Home tab on the ribbon. I select another cell that contains the format I want to copy. So in this case, we can select this cell because I just want it to go back to normal. Then I click the Format Paint button up here on the Home ribbon. And then I click on the cell or cells that I want to change. So you can see it's got a little paintbrush on it, on the mouse here. So I can actually highlight all of these cells here and put them back to the old format. And we're good to retest. Now let's run this macro again on this other cell and see what happens. So I select that, click my button. Sure enough, it's actually gone back and changed our format on the original cells that we used for recording the macro. Have you figured out why? What happened? Well, when you click a different cell after you start recording, that becomes part of the macro. So if you remember, what I did was I hit the record button, and then I selected cells C33 to D33 and then changed the format. And guess what? That's what Excel will do every time I run the macro, because that's what I recorded. It even does it if I change to a different tab, like this. So if I want to highlight this, I hit my button, it's jumped down to cells C33 and D33 on this new tab and colored those yellow. So let's try this again. Obviously, it's not going to be a very useful macro if we leave it like that. So wouldn't it be nice if there were a quick fix to make this macro work properly? Sure enough, there is. You can re-record the macro with exactly the same name. That way, we don't have to create a brand new macro, delete the old button on the Quick Access toolbar, and then add a new button. We can simply re-record the macro using the same name. Only this time, we'll make sure we're already on the cells we want to affect before we start recording. That way, it'll only record the actual actions we're interested in, which in this case is changing the font to bold and adding some yellow fill. Let's try it again. All right, we're going to select the cells first. Then we're going to hit the record button. Now the trick here is to name it exactly the same. So again, it's yellow, bold, and I recorded it to my personal workbook, and then hit OK. So you can see it says yellow bold already exists. Do we want to replace it? You bet. We'll hit yes. Okay, now without clicking anywhere else, I'm going to hit yellow, bold, and stop. Now we can test our macro immediately because we already have a button on the QAT for that exact macro name. Yellow bold, hit the button. Yay, it worked. All right, that should keep us going for this week. And if you haven't already tried recording your own macro, why not just take an extra minute right now and do so? You've seen how easy it is, and once you get started, you'll find it tough to stop creating them. Also, I'd love it if you would leave a comment below to say whether you've recorded any of your own macros yet, what kind of macros you recorded, and whether you've run into any issues with them. The more we share, the more everyone can learn from each other, which is always a good thing, right? Okay, that's it for now. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.